California. Ooh, a big state, a big BI state. They've had a lot of wins there through ballot initiatives, but let's check out what they had happen for 2022 and how exactly do ballot initiatives work in the state of California. As you guys have seen along the way, each state is different. Some states are indirect states, some states are direct states. What is California? California, here we come. All right, California. Citizens of California may initiate legislation and amendments through the process of direct initiative. This means that successful petitions bypass the California legislature and go on the ballot for voters to vote on, directly on the ballot. This is huge for this state or any state that is direct initiative. They go past the legislator. They don't need their approval. They can get directly on the ballot. I wish every state was this way. Citizens of California may initiate legislation either as a state statute or constitutional amendment. In California, citizens also have the power to repeal legislation via veto referendum. The California state legislature, like the other 49 states, may place their own measures on the ballot as legislatively referred constitutional amendments, but also, unlike most states, place legislatively referred state statutes on the ballot to allow voters to participate in improving their laws the legislature wishes to pass as well. Referred amendments require 66% by both chambers before going before the voters for ratification. So this percentage will change based on the states. Some states may have 51%, some will have 60%. California, it is 66%. So let's go ahead and see what exactly did they pass in California for 2022. The first one here, let me make this a little bit larger for the people in the back that need to see. California Proposition 1, the Right to Reproductive Freedom Amendment. This passed by 66.88%. Let's go on. So this was on the ballot in California as a legislatively referred constitutional amendment for November. The ballot measure was approved. The initiative amendment was put forth by the legislator, not the voters, but the legislator were asking voters for ratification of their amendment. A yes vote supported amending the state's constitution to prohibit the state from interfering with or denying an individual's reproductive freedom, which is defined to include a right to an abortion and a right to contraceptives. Notice this part here, because there's a difference for allowing residents to have a right to an abortion, but they also included the right to contraception as well. That's important. I'm glad they put both of those in there because there are different types of contraception. It's not just birth control. There's also something called Plan B, which a woman can take in the event that, let's say, maybe the condom broke or something like that. They can go to the pharmacy and they can get Plan B to prevent pregnancy as well. So notice they put both of those there. I think that's key. Moving on. The second initiative, California Proposition 26. For those of you who are into sports and you like to get your hands at betting a little bit, some of you who like to gamble, legalize sports betting on American Indian lands initiative. This failed by 66.98%. Now, this one was a combined initiated constitutional amendment and a state statute for November. The ballot measure was defeated A yes vote supported this ballot initiative to, one, legalize sports betting at American Indian gaming casinos and license racetracks in California. Two, tax profits derived from sports betting at racetracks at 10%. And three, legalize roulette and dice games such as craps at tribal casinos. So this one was a little bit interesting to me because having lived in North Carolina on the reservations, Native Americans or indigenous people actually already have that right. They already have casinos. For example, there's a place in North Carolina called Cherokee. My parents used to go there sometimes where they have it's a reservation. They have their casinos and all of that jazz. So I was actually surprised that South Carolina, that California is just now putting something like this on the ballot. So that was interesting, and it did not pass. And I'm not sure how I feel about that one. But Shirley says that was nonsense. The ballot initiative lied about the 10% bad initiative. So there you go. Thank you for that information, Shirley. But yes, this one did not pass. Now, there was a fiscal impact with this. The fiscal impact statement was as follows: increased state revenues potentially reaching the tens of millions of dollars annually from payments made by facilities offering sports wagering and new civil penalties authorized by this measure. Some portion of these venues would reflect a shift from other existing state and local venues, increased state regulatory costs, potentially reaching the low tens of millions of dollars annually. Some or all of these costs would be offset by the increased revenue or reimbursements to the state. Increased enforcement costs not likely to exceed several $1,000,000 annually related to a new civil enforcement tool for enforcing certain gaming laws. Now, when you look at the supporters, the Coalition for Safe, Responsible Gaming led the Yes on 26 campaign. The political parties that supported it: Peace and Freedom Party of California, American Indian Tribes. There's also a list of tribes here. I'm not going to go through all of them that supported it. And there's also unions that supported this as well. One of them being the San Diego Police Officers Association. That one's interesting. And organizations such as the Baptist Ministers Conference of LA and Southern California, and so forth. Who was against it? Taxpayers Against Special Interest Monopolies was registered to oppose Proposition 26. The Republican Party of California was also opposed. And there were corporations such as Park West Casinos, Bicycle Casino, for example, that were opposed to it. Unions, there was one union that opposed to it, AFSCME Council 36, and organizations include California Animal Welfare Association and California Contract Cities Association. There's a note here from Roger Meadows that he put, they were so desperate to get this thing passed, they filed for it as an initiative to pass it as a state law and an amendment, yet both failed. Right. So they tried it both ways there. I don't know how many of you are into like gambling or gaming. I don't gamble. I've actually never been to a casino. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know where to begin. I like holding on to what I have. I don't like the possibility of losing the money that I have. So, I mean, it just is what it is. But for those of you who do gamble and are into, this type of game betting, how do you feel about this? Because we have another proposition here, which also deals with sports betting, that also failed. California Proposition 27, legalize sports betting and revenue for homelessness prevention fund initiative. This also failed. 82.28% said no. Now, this particular initiative was also a combined initiated constitutional amendment and a state statute in November. It was defeated. A yes vote supported legalizing online and mobile sports betting for persons 21 years of age or older, establishing regulations for the mobile sports betting industry, imposing a 10% tax on sports betting revenues and licensing fees, and allocating tax revenue to account for homelessness programs and an account for tribes not operating sports betting. So this one looks like they were trying to find an initiative here that was actually going to help homelessness programs. And in the event that the previous one did not pass in reference to tribes betting, this one would hopefully come in and pick up that slack there. But it was also defeated. Who supported this? Californians for Solutions to Homelessness and Mental Health Support. They were one of these supporters for this. Officials include Fresno Mayor, Long Beach Mayor, Oakland Mayor, Sacramento Mayor, American Indian Tribes, Santa Rosa Rancheria, Tachi Yucat Tribe. I hope I didn't butcher that. Big Valley Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians, Middletown Rancheria of Pomo Indians of California. Corporations, Major League Baseball. So they supported this as well. Who was against it? Californians for Tribal Sovereignty and Safe Gaming and Coalition for Safe Responsible Gaming opposed it. Officials, here's a list here. Gavin Newsom opposed it. Juan Vargas, these are representatives. Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis, Senate President pro tempore Tony Atkins, Senate Minority Leader Scott Wilk, Assembly Minority Leader James Gallagher, Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon. Political parties: California Democratic Party, Peace and Freedom Party of California, and the Republican Party of California. So when you look at both of those ballot measures, in the end, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party opposed this. So that's just something to point out. American Indian tribes that did oppose it: Agua Caliente Band of Kalua Indians, Barona Band of Mission Indians, Rincon Band of Licino Indians, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, and Yocha Dehe Winton Nation. And I'm sorry if I butchered those names. Unions that were against it: the California Teachers Association, Communication Workers of America. Organizations that were opposed to it, I can go through all of these, it's a long list, but one of them was the LA Urban League, and then also American Indian Chamber of Commerce of California. So different groups here opposed that. Long story short, not passing. did not come through. If any of you watching live in California, let me know in the chat, because I'm curious to hear your opinion about this as well. Moving on, California Proposition 28, Art and Music K through 12 Education Funding Initiative. This is right up my alley. This passed 64.40%. This was on the ballot as an initiated state statute. The ballot measure was approved. A yes vote supported this ballot initiative to require an annual source of funding for K through 12 public schools for art and music equal to, at minimum, 1% of the total state and local revenues that local education agencies receive under Proposition 98. 2, distribute a portion of the additional funding based on a local education agency share of economically disadvantaged students. And 3, require schools with 500 or more students to use 80% of the funding for employing teachers and 20% to training and materials. And I want to comment on this one, being a former educator here. Some of you may wonder why art and music. Those programs are usually the first ones cut. I went to a high school that was very much invested in the football team, the basketball team. Sometimes people forgot about the baseball team. but they were very much invested in the sports. As time went by, when there were time to make cuts in reference to education, where would they pull from first? They would cut the arts and they would cut the music programs. So having an initiative like this to make sure that those programs stay in place and they're not taken away from those schools, I think is very important. What people need to understand is not everyone is an athlete. Not everyone can play a sport. And some people, through art and music, they really find their place. It is also noted, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but did you know that students that tend to play a musical instrument, excuse my language tonight, that tend to play a musical instrument, why can't I talk tonight? Musical instrument. Students that play a musical instrument, I don't know what's going on. They are more likely to perform well in math. It's something about that type of thinking where you have to learn how to read music. You have to learn the notes. You have to learn. I was in band, so this is like right up my alley, and I was in art as well. So for me, it's good to see that something like this passed. Shirley said, yes, it won here in California. Boop, boop. Yeah, I was excited to see that. That's a good one. I'm always for like giving more funding towards public education. That's a big one for me. Let's move on to a healthcare initiative here. If JB is in the chat, this one might be brought to his attention. This one failed. California Proposition 29, Dialysis Clinic Requirements Initiative. This one failed by 68.40%. This was on the ballot as an initiated state statute. It was defeated. A yes vote would have enacted staffing requirements, reporting requirements, ownership disclosure, and closing requirements for chronic dialysis clinics. This includes requiring clinics to have at least one physician, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant with at least 6 months of experience with end-stage renal disease care on site during patient treatments. 2, requiring clinics to report dialysis-related infections to the California Department of Public Health. 3, requiring clinics to provide patients with a list of physicians with an ownership interest of 5% or more in the clinic. 4, requiring clinics to provide the CDPH with a list of persons with ownership interests of 5% or more in the clinic. And 5, requiring clinics to obtain CDPH's written consent before closing or substantially reducing services to patients. The ballot initiative would have also prohibited clinics from refusing to care for a patient based on the patient's form of payment. This piece here is huge. They should have put this at the top. I don't know why this was put at the bottom. The ballot initiative would have also prohibited clinics from refusing to care for a patient based on the patient's form of payment, whether the patient was an individual payer, the patient's health insurer, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, or Medicare. I cannot believe this did not pass. Because I'm thinking about all the people who don't have health insurance or the people who have a lack of health insurance. To turn away care for a patient based on their insurance status, that is not okay. So this concerns me that this did not pass. And we also know, like CalCare, they tried to get that passed in California. That didn't work out, even though they said they had the votes for it. Big money came in last minute and they said, oh, yeah, we're not going to bring it to the floor for a vote. And they had the votes for it. So what is really happening in California here? Interesting. Very interesting. Let me get rid of this here. Supporters for this: Californians for Kidney Dialysis Patient Protection. They led this. Political parties was the Democratic Party again. The Democratic Party of California supported it. The Peace and Freedom Party of California also. Unions, SEIUUHWS. Now, Roger Meadows has a note here. Since California has a single subject rule, I think they need to accompany the single payer CBI with another CBI that says that all nursing homes, hospitals, dialysis centers, medical facilities, clinics, etc., must either stationalize or municipalize or cooperatize. Must be either. So this Gloria says California is a massive health industrial complex state. This is so sad to me. This one is so sad. You see the education measure pass, but the healthcare piece does not pass. I don't like that. Don't like it at all. Next, we have California Proposition 30, tax on income above 2 million or zero emissions, for zero emissions vehicles and wildfire prevention initiative. This is similar to the millionaire tax that we passed here in Massachusetts. Now, again, it passed here in Massachusetts. It did not pass in California. This was brought on as an initiative state statute. It was defeated. A yes vote supported increasing the tax on personal income above 2 million by 1.75% and dedicating the revenue to zero emission vehicle subsidies, zero emission vehicle infrastructure, such as electric vehicle charging stations and wildfire suppression and prevention programs. Very sad that this did not pass because California has a hell of a lot of millionaires. You need to think about who lives in California. All the movie stars, all the musicians, all the producers and directors that live in Hollywood, Malibu, etc. And then don't forget the elites that live in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. There's no reason why this should not have passed. We have over 300,000 millionaires here in Massachusetts. I believe they probably have a lot more in California. This should have passed. Jesus. Who supported it? You might want to pay attention to this one. Ro Khanna, Barbara Lee, Kevin McCarty, Buffy Wicks, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. Who also supported it? The California Democratic Party. Corporations that supported it: Lyft, unions, Cal Fire, California State Association of Electrical Workers, Unite Here, organization, American Lung Association, California Environmental Voters. See, they're not serious. I don't understand. If you're in the chat and you live in California, Eric, can you star their comment if they are? If you live in California, please let me know. How the hell did this not pass? I don't get it. I really don't get it. People are not serious about the environment. Really not. Jeez Louise. And let's see who opposed it. Now, hold on to your seat for this one. Whack ass Gavin Newsom. Now, I just told you the California Democratic Party supported this. So why did Gavin Newsom oppose it? Gavin Newsom got paid. Political parties that opposed it: the Peace and Freedom Party of California and the Republican Party of California. So here you got Gavin Newsom siding along with the Republican Party. You see what I mean? This is why I tell you there's not that much of a difference between these parties. California Teachers Union also opposed it, as well as California Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Association, and Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Jeez, I tell you. And there's one more. This one passed. California Proposition 31, flavored tobacco products ban referendum. A yes vote is to uphold the contested legislation, which would ban the sale of flavored tobacco products. That passed by 63.42%. Not going to go into much detail about that one. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Republican Party opposed it. Democratic Party supported it, and so did the teacher union. I hope you guys saw a correlation here between the people who supported these initiatives and the people who opposed it. And something that I wanted to show you, and thank you, Rogers, for putting that on this one. What I wanted to point out to you is that at the end of the day, depending on who their donors are, which is probably why Gavin Newsom opposed that millionaire tax. That's what really matters, not so much the political party all the time. I'll take those comments on Rockfin, Eric. All right. Thank you for the tips on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. The legislature has no control over whether the initiatives appear on the ballot. However, California law requires the legislation to hold a public hearing on the initiatives at least 30 days prior to the election. Proponents are allowed to withdraw an initiative even after it has been declared eligible for the ballot up to when the initiative is certified as qualified for the ballot, 131 days before the election. This means the legislator can offer alternative legislation as a compromise in an effort to convince petitioners to withdraw certified initiatives. My commentary: don't trust the government. I imagine situations where me saying, oh, I see after session of asking you to do this and you ignoring us. Now you want to come through in the final hour when you see we're about to pass it and take credit for passing it after we did the work. No, that's okay. The government, we're not withdrawing shit, but that's me. Only 6 months to collect signatures for initiatives and 3 months for repealers so that they can be on the ballot for such a large state? ? Yet Arizona, a much smaller state, gets 2 years. This doesn't give time for grassroots to build momentum, leading to big money takeover. Time for CBI to extend. That might explain, Sabby, why dialysis and the environment one didn't make it. No time to build grassroots momentum. Thank you for those tips on Rockfin, Roger. That makes sense. JB said, I had a couple of people ask me about this. I didn't hear about the insurance part. I only saw the part about requiring dialysis centers having to have a doctor or a medical director on site, which I support. Moused it. TV ads here in Cali always shoot down anything good. Yeah, that they do that here too, but I don't know. Venta Cafe, Californian here. Too many rich mofos or think they're rich. Kyle, I'm from California, and it's because Gavin Newsom is a sack of boop. Kill your Gorgies. Here, California, depressing. Yep. Gruesome Newsom does nothing without Mama Bear. Auntie Pelosi tells little useless nephew. Well said there. Thank you so much for those guys. Wow. Wow. So that was California. Next week, we'll start with Colorado. So we're trying to go in alphabetical order here.